it's very important to get informed about who are the professionals who know what we need as musicians, because we function differently. We will go through treatment in a different way. Musicians really want to play. They love playing. They endure pain playing because they love that so much, which if you have pain, you must look what is the cause of this pain. You shouldn't be
Absolutely
having pain. You can resolve a lot of tension problems if you actually have the tension, which I like to call activity, in other parts of your body. They kind of shut down those, like you have pain, they say, oh, it's normal to have pain. So they start living the pain, they have the pain, and at a certain point, the brain is not going to recognize anymore. The brain is telling you, you're having pain because something is not good for me. Please change this. And then you start ignoring it. So the brain also has to shut that down. If you are not well emotionally, that's actually when you really have to be careful about your body and how you practice, because that's the moment when you're more in risk, not only being fit physically, but aware of how your mental is and having tools to also work on the mental. So those two things work really together and very necessary. So I didn't really care if I had seen in their faces, oh, I'm not interested in this. Oh, come on, I don't want to move my pelvis. I tell people, if you don't really care about your body, I know you care about your playing.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, I am so excited to introduce our guest. We have been working for several months to get this on the books, and I've been really looking forward to picking her brain. She's also somebody that was referred to me by a former guest, Dr. Lesley McCallister, and this person apparently did their doctoral programs together, I believe. And she hails from Juazeiro do Norte, Brazil, and teaches at the Federal University of Cariri. She is a renowned researcher, pianist, and just works with musicians to help them live healthier performing careers and healthier lives. So, Dr. Carina Joly, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me here. It's always exciting to talk about these topics, which it's my passion, really. So thank you so much.
I'm so excited because it's not often on the show that we have people who didn't get into this field by going through their own performing injury.
Yeah.
You were kind of telling me before off camera how you got into it, but if you could share with the audience why you decided to get into the field of musician health, injury prevention, injury recovery, I think that would be something that they would love to hear.
Sure. So as a pianist or as a musician, we always have this focus on improving what we can do at the instrument. So I was always looking for how could I change, play better, have be easier with be able to play easier with difficult things, difficult passages, difficult pieces. And I started, well, I have to say that when I was 16, I was having pain in my shoulders, but I was having a lot of personal issues. Like my father was dying of cancer, he ended up dying after that. So yes, I was very tense. And I remember the physical therapist telling me, your issue. Actually, this physical therapist was taking care of my father too. So he knew the story. And he knew that I was very concerned about my father. So it was a time that, yes, I was having a lot of tension in my shoulders. But after that time passed, that never really made me stop playing to have to go treat myself. I just was trying to learn strategies and all that. So I think thank God I never really had injury. But I realized at a certain point when I was changing my technique, there was a moment that I started working with a piano teacher who told me, we have to change some things. We have to restart some things, develop some muscles in your hand and all that. And I realized that the body had a lot to do with that. I wouldn't be able to have a full control, or to be able to put the weight of my arm into my hands if I would be totally clenched. So I realized that the body had a lot to do with the technique. This was really before going to my graduate studies, which I did all in the United States. Um, I was very interested in researching about this during my graduate studies, but I realized it was really complicated. It would have to be, which is 20 years ago, it was more difficult to have professors from different departments and working together to do this. I know today is possible, but not in those times. It was more difficult. So I ended up finishing my programs in the US, and I ended up moving to Switzerland for personal reasons. And I was looking for something to learn, something new to learn. I'm always trying to learn something new. When I was there, I learned that the Zurich University of the Arts had a program called Music Physiology. In German, it's Musikphysiologie. And if you look into professionals from the German-speaking countries that work with musicians, health professionals, they are Musikphysiologists. They are music physiologists. Okay, so this is a word very much used in those German-speaking countries. And this program was directed to music teachers, people who were teaching, not music educators, but instrumental and vocal teachers. We had to have a diploma to be approved to take this course. We were supposed to perform. Also, we were supposed to be performers to be accepted. And then we could. It was a 3-year program in which we had really the advice from medical doctors, physical therapists with a specialization in musicians, because not every physical therapist or not every medical doctor understand what we have to do. So this is extremely important. Wherever you are having a problem and you're needing medical help, it's very important to get informed about who are the professionals who know what we need as musicians, because we function differently. We will go through treatment in a different way. This is what Alice Brand von Brenner, the founder of the Performing Arts Medicine Association, was always defending. And this is why she started this, because she realized that musicians needed special treatment, differently from someone who's not a musician. So
absolutely,
these people were there, and I was really, really lucky to be able to do this program. And the first year, we've had the focus on my own playing. So I learned things about my tongue while I was playing the piano. And when I say that, people are like, wow, the tongue. Yes, I had extra tension in my tongue, and that affected my technique. That affected my ability to have clarity in fast passages, in ornamentation. So I had to unlearn some patterns, some behavioral patterns that I learned unconsciously. I am actually very interested in involuntary tensions that we bring to playing that really cause problems also in performance, in control, in sound control, technique control. Anyways, so first year we worked on my own body, but also we did have anatomy classes. We also had a course on observing postures of other musicians. So we had a specialist in posture telling, oh, let's look at this person playing. What do you see? Where your eyes go to when you learn a little bit about what should be postural behavior that is healthier and what is unhealthy here. So we learned to look into that. And in the second year, we continued on learning also about what are the common issues that musicians go through in terms of, when they enter the clinic, what are the common problems that show up. We actually, the director of this program is a medical doctor who attends the musicians in that university. So all the students who have issues, they do have consultation with this medical doctor. Yeah. Which I'm not sure he's about to retire at a certain point, but it's amazing what they have.
What's his name?
Horst Hildebrand.
Oh, cool.
So then in the second year, I was supposed to start putting into my teaching the learning that I had in the first, I was having from the first year. We also learned about techniques on, economic practice, using mental practice in order to, for example, to not overdo with our muscles. So we had to include those things in our teaching, and we had to bring our students regularly, a few students, not all of them, regularly to check out, to teach them in front of them. And would say, oh, this is, you could do this and that. So it was really incredible. And in the third year, I was supposed to have volunteers to work with and to have a protocol, and of course having their support, especially from my mentor whose name is Johanna Gutzwiller, who is a fantastic physiotherapist who lives in Basel in Switzerland, and I owe everything that I know to her. We also had a fantastic physical therapist who also helped us a lot, and I also owe a lot to her, Irene Spiergi-Gantert. So these people were really amazing. And we, in this program, I have to say, we experimented at least a semester, but if we liked, we could do more, of various kinds of body therapies. For example, Feldenkrais, Alexander technique. We did yoga for musicians. We did qigong. We did tai chi. We had free pass to the gym, so we could work in our bodies for free, being a student at the program. So we had the opportunity to really make a big life change with our body, and also our understanding of all of those therapies, with the goal of being able to direct our students. Because I am not someone who says, oh, I love Pilates, so I have to tell all my students to do Pilates. I think that each person works differently. I realized that from my colleagues in the program. I had a colleague who I really like and miss a lot, Martha. She was traveling every week from Czech Republic to do this program. She was taking Alexander technique various times because she said, I need to understand this because so far I don't understand this. So I'm not sure if she made peace with Alexander technique, but she definitely was telling me in the first semester, I don't know if this is for me. So, and I realized that people think differently. People have a relationship with their body in a different way. So we need to be able, if we're doing what I do, we need to be able to direct our students to maybe what you understand as would be something for them. People are different, and they might not take therapies in the same way you took for yourself. Yeah, so I don't know if it was a long response, but I think I tried to show things there that I think might interest people.
Absolutely. No, I loved it because some of the things that you touched on, especially that last thing, that was a realization that I came to through my own injury. And that there's not just one way to teach people from a pedagogical standpoint. But then if there's anything I've learned in my recovery, it's that there's not one way to help somebody come back from an injury, or prevent an injury, right? Because our relationships with our bodies are all different. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is specifically with these younger musicians, because they are, and you can maybe touch on piano or whichever instrument, because they are all so different and physiologically, pedagogically, how they understand pedagogy. In your studies and your work, what are some findings that you've learned through your research of like common factors that you see through young pianists or young musicians, that could help them prevent?
So, yes, people, the mind works differently. Most of the people have same bones, same muscles. Yeah, in a way, they are built more or less equally, right?
Sure.
So there are some principles, and this is how I actually thought about a way of bringing these to people was, okay, what could I do? Because when I started giving my workshops, I had to make this analysis. What could I share from this program with other people? Because this was my biggest goal. In 2011, when I started going around and of offering my workshops, I had to think about it, and I had to say, okay, because each person is different. When you look at a person, like for example, yesterday, a person who plays accordion, a new student that I'm actually going to start teaching piano at my university, said, I play the accordion, and I have some. I want you to see it because I have some issues, whatever. And I was watching this person, and I realized that his head was tilting a little bit to the left. Most of the time, it was a pattern in his playing. And I said, look, I noticed this because I noticed as a accordionist, he cannot look down. He cannot look down because he really cannot see things. I actually was holding the instrument to see how it feels, and really, you cannot look down. So but he was always doing this, and he told me that he had in his left ear, he had tinnitus. He did not know the name of tinnitus. He never heard of this. He said that he could hear a beep most of the time because this is a person who plays the accordion, which is a very loud instrument, from 6 years old, 6 years of age. And now he's 18. And he said, yes. I said, by the way, do you hear from your right ear more? Do you think you could detect this? And he said, that's when he said, look, I actually, yes, because I have this all the time here in my ear. So I actually do listen more from this ear. And it is reflecting to his body posture. So this is really a specific thing that because I know how should be the alignment of the head, and I realize there's something. So you start thinking about how can you help that particular person? But, okay, that's a specific case. But if you think about how people should sit, what is the ideal alignment? What can someone improve in that sitting? Because what I learned, and that's what message I wanted to tell to the young musicians who are interested in improving in playing, and that's how I started working on my own body, improving my sitting. If I am well seated, as I said before, when I was working on the new technique, if I wanted to work with the weight of my arm, if my whole weight is falling down to the back because I am with my pelvis tilted towards the back, I'm not going to ever be able to I might be able to put some weight on the keyboard, but I'm going to have to do extra work. And that extra work could come later. I would have to recruit my muscles extra in order to be able to do what I wanted to do. So if I actually am working with gravity, if I can align my body, I can put my head over my shoulders and not put my head forward, which is really heavy. It's gonna really put a lot of pressure on my neck. So if I can actually think about this, see what is happening to my body. Am I having an ideal alignment? How is that for my arms if I have to play the piano, for example? How is that to hold my instrument? Can I hold my instrument better if I am more aligned? How is my support if I'm having to play an instrument that requires blowing through something? Is my breathing supported? Can I have support in order to do the attack? So if you have an ideal sitting, an ideally aligned pelvis, can everybody do that? Maybe not. Why? A lot of people today, I see young people unable to align their pelvis because they stay so long every day seated that they have the muscles that they need to align, to work on the pelvis and stabilize the pelvis, totally shortened. So for these people, it's going to be extremely uncomfortable to have an aligned pelvis. So before aligning the pelvis, they're going to have to work on those muscles, stretch those muscles to gain that. What do you say, how do you say that? Because they are shortened, so you want to change that. They want to
To
enlarge
lengthen them,
them,
right?
to lengthen
Enlarge them,
them.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
to improve, to increase the amplitude of movement of your pelvis in order to feel comfortable um, with the pelvis aligned. I went through that. I was one of those people who had a shortened. I told about my tongue, and I had to work on that, but I also had to work on that, and that requires some stretching. So basically, if you can work on your alignment, you're gonna gain a lot. Now, very important. Oh, I'm going to straighten my back up. But if you strengthen your back up, super tense, if your neck is, you can't breathe, it's not going to help you. You need to be able to be aligned with flexibility and with freedom. That's work. You need to have maybe to develop some muscles in order to endure a posture that is really giving you this freedom and keeping the alignment. When I do my workshops and I bring people into the more aligned pelvis, I asked everybody and I say, is it easy to keep these? And many people say no, because they're not used to that. And they will need to develop muscles towards this direction. So this work would help a lot of people. It's worth $1 million.
Hey guys, I just want to interrupt the show real quick and just tell you about something I've been working on for a long time that I'm so excited to share with you. Like I've said in the past, you have the potential to make your injury become a benefit to you, an asset to you. But at the same time, I know the feeling of being lost, not knowing who to turn to, where to go, what resources to use, all sorts of things, and also how to reframe the situation, the mental skills that's needed to be able to do that. And so if you are one of those people looking for that resource, that help, that coaching, I want to tell you about something I've been working on, and that is Musician Unchained. Musician Unchained is now the newest coaching platform for musicians going through injury. It is intended to help you view your situation in a way that benefits you and make the changes in your life that you need to become the best version of yourself because of your injury. Your injury being the impetus for that change. I would love to be able to help you in any way that I can, even if that means sending you somewhere else to someone who can better help you. And so if you are interested in working together one-on-one, visit our website, musicianunchained.com/let's hang for more details. All right, let's get back to the show. Yes, it is. It really is. One of the things I've been studying and reading about and everything is just how like strength training, and not just like weightlifting, but just movement in general, incorporating that into musicianship as an aspect of musicianship, just as strength training is for an athlete, even though like a basketball player may not be professionally lifting weights. That's not what they're making money doing. If they weren't in the gym, stretching, running, doing the cardio, doing the musculoskeletal exercises, they would be kind of toast on the basketball court, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. We need to adopt that kind of mentality as musicians in our own unique way, right?
Yes. The problem with musicians is that I see small changes from when I started in 2011. I actually gave a workshop last Wednesday. And there's a question I always make. I ask people to raise the hand if they have the habit of working out 3 times a week. And this number is increasing gradually from 2011, when maybe 2 people would, on a room full of 50 people, 2 people would raise their hands. Now I saw 6. I'm happy with this, it's getting a little better, but still There were other, let's do the 44 people who didn't raise their hands. Why?
Right.
Because musicians work very hard. Musicians really want to play. They love playing. They endure pain playing because they love that so much, if you have pain, you must look what is the cause of this pain. You shouldn't be
Absolutely.
having pain. So, but if you are, the problem is that you are seated for, seated, or, even the ones who play standing on a performance, they practice sitting or they alternate, but they do a lot of sitting. So these people, we are seated, we are recruiting certain muscles, but many others we are not recruiting because we're seated. And we might not be seated actively. And that's what I'm saying. It's not about sitting and there was this concept at a certain time, I don't know, oh, you have to be relaxed. Actually, what is to be relaxed? If you sit on a chair to play the violin as a couch potato, you're not going to really, it's going to be harder to play. Your arm is going to be super heavy, And I love the expression couch potato as an example, but in Portuguese, it's hard to translate that. But I love couch potato because I imagine a potato on a couch sinking. But for us, I had to find another way. But anyways, relaxed. What has to be relaxed? You must have the control for the relaxation. You must know when to relax, and you must be able to relax when you need to relax, especially when you're going to have to do something very, very difficult, very complex activity. But you must have the support active, which is where while you're sitting, your pelvis must have some activity. The muscles of your pelvis, if you're standing up, your feet, the way you align your pelvis over your feet, you must have some activity. So the musicians don't have many musicians don't have this people don't teach them that because they don't know, because, it's not, oh, I will not teach you this. No, they just don't know. And it happens
Right.
that I think since we are very young learning, or whatever, an adult starting also, you must receive this kind of information in order to start watching what are you doing with your body while you're playing. Are you really activating where you have to activate? Because if you activate the pelvis, for example, while you're seated, you're going to have a relaxation up here. If you don't have a stability down here, your brain is going to know, well, it's not stable. So what happens is the brain start recruiting other muscles that you don't need in order to keep the stabilization. And that's when the extra tension comes. You can resolve a lot of tension problems if you actually have the tension, which I like to call activity, in other parts of your body, where the
That's
parts that are
wonderful. Yeah.
responsible for your support. And one last thing, people that need the breathing movement in order to play, if they have a strong tension in the muscles of your pelvis and in the lower belly, it's going to be hard for that movement to happen, which you need that movement. So it's a very specific kind of support. It's not, I'm tense now down here and now I'm going to be free here. It's a very subtle work. So that's why the body work that you can gain from, I don't know, you may start having a walk, but you start feeling, how is my pelvis? How am I walking? Because musicians also, what a lot of studies tell when they look into the proprioceptivity, which is the ability of analyzing what is happening with your body. And they all demonstrate that musicians have low proprioceptivity. So they have a lower ability, the ones who already have played for a long time. They kind of shut down those, like, you have pain, they say, oh, it's normal to have pain. So they start living the pain, they have the pain, and at a certain point, the brain is not going to recognize anymore. The brain is telling you, you're having pain because something is not good for me. Please change
Something's
this.
off.
And then you start ignoring it. So the brain also has to shut that down. So the musicians grow up into their work, and they don't have the ability, they lose the ability of uh, recognizing something that is not so well. So they have to learn. So all those body works, first, they're going to help you to regain the ability to analyze what is going on with you, to feel it, really, to realize you're playing. Oh, I noticed that I'm having lots of tension here. Let me see if I can relax that. You only have that when you gain some control, some awareness. So this is very important. First, the physical activity will help you with that. Definitely should help you. And then another thing is the physical activity is going to strengthen your muscles that will help you to support your posture on the ideal alignment that you should have to work together with the gravity. It's not the gravity pull you down, because if your head is in front of your body, the gravity is pulling you down here, and those muscles here are working too hard to hold it. So it's going to start hurting. Yeah. So
So good, man. And this is just going to be groundbreaking for so many people, because like I was telling you before we started recording, there's not a lot of people in the United States that talk about this in traditional collegiate or other musical settings, right? I'm curious, in your workshops, I have this question I want to ask a couple. I want to kind of pivot to another topic, but I'm curious, in these workshops that you do, what are some of the reservations that musicians that you're instructing have about implementing these things or even receiving them at all?
mm-hmm.
And then how do you respond to them? Because it's kind of like a cultural thing that we're still dealing with here, you know?
Yeah. So this happens still today. I don't think this changed. When I go to the places, basically, and their professors who happen to be my colleagues, they make it mandatory. So it happens that I have people in the room that didn't really want to be there because they don't think they need that. Yes. So they say, oh, I don't have any pain. Why do I need to do this? Oh, man, I'm going to have to sit here for 3 hours and do these pelvic motions. There is this attitude. I think this is changing a little bit, but still there's a lot, especially for from the people who don't feel problems while they're playing. If you don't feel problems while you're playing, this is really good, but it doesn't mean that you don't have anything to improve. Okay. I worked those times, 2009, 2010, 2011, in my body, and I still have a lot of things that I continue working. It's a work in progress. You learn things, you start feeling, oh, I'm having this feeling now. How can I change? Why? You can always change. Anyways, so from my mentor, Johanna Gutzwiller, because I was always regularly seeing her work with the musicians, students at the Scola Cantorum in Basel, which is a conservatoire, part of the Basel Conservatoire, I think. I don't know if it's part, but it happened there. And with musicians that work with ancient instruments. It's amazing. If you look at the trumpet from the Renaissance, that thing is so huge and totally not ergonomic. And then I saw like a small woman holding that and playing that thing really well. But man, what she was doing with her body in order to be able to do that, And then comes
I can only
also
imagine.
the keyboard players, like harpsichord, and then you have all this knowledge of oh, you cannot do this fingering, you have to do the fingering from the past, and then you cannot use your thumb, for example, if you go to a competition. So there's something, or you cannot do adaptations with the bassoon, the ancient bassoon. You cannot do some adaptation, but that thing really will hurt you when you have to hold it. So there's also this concept of keeping you have to play exactly how they did in the past, which really could hurt someone. But anyways, yes. A little criticism there with this old schools. But
just let it out.
Coming back with the student, because I think it's going to ring lots of bells. So that's why I bring those things. But so the students, coming back to them. From Johanna Gutzwiller, when I was watching her teaching, what she did was, in the very beginning, she always asked everyone to come and play something. Play 30 seconds, 40 seconds of something in the beginning of her workshop. And then at the end of her workshop, which would be 3 days long, which could be 1 day long, it depended. But she would ask them to play again. During the workshop, they would work on their bodies. In both recordings, they were supposed to not have played right before. So in both recordings, they were supposed to play now, not warmed up. But then the second time, definitely they played after working on their bodies. So I brought this to my workshops. So I didn't really care if I had seen in their faces, oh, I'm not interested in this. Oh, come on, I don't want to move my pelvis. I would just say, hey, let's move. Let's move. Let's do it. Hey, come on. And they had to do it. And at the very end, I couldn't do it with everyone, because if I have a room full of people, I would get 2 or 3 volunteers. So the volunteers would play at the end of the work. And what mostly happened, and later, if you want, I can share with you a YouTube link to some of the volunteers playing before and after, because people can see a difference. They would see the difference of their playing. And then I would actually get that recording and we would watch again the first and the second, as Johanna did with her students. I brought that because I knew that would be the only way I could convince the ones who were not interested, or the ones who were thinking they didn't need anything, that this was really good for them. If it's only to get them to play better. Because play better. What is to play better? Would that be to get a sound that you wanted? Because you will be crazy. You would be super surprised when you look at these videos that you hear the sound change, from one performance to the other performance, just because they have more activity in the right place. And then they relaxed here and were able to perform. And most of the people couldn't really realize what happened to their playing. So that's why I record, and that's why they could watch it later. So I tell people, if you don't really care about your body, I know you care about your playing. So I guarantee that
I love that so much.
We say that I sell my fish. I'm selling my fish here. If you work on your body, your sound is going to change. I can bet my pinky finger of the left hand. People know how this finger is important in the piano. So it's going to change. It's going to change. And you might have a pleasant change. Johanna was in a study that is published in German with clarinetists, which happened when I was there and I was observing everything. And so she taught the clarinetists to work on their feet. And they worked on their feet. They recorded their playing before working on their feet. And then they recorded again after they learned how to activate their feet. Why? Because they believe it's very difficult to prove these, with studies, that with the feet activation, there is a chain reaction that will go up and activate the pelvic diaphragm, which is what you need to support your singing, your playing, blowing instruments, and your piano playing and your violin playing, viola, everything. You need that support in order to give that message to the brain. Oh, I am okay, I am stable, relax there. And then you have better control, better fine motor control, because you don't have other things irritating that, or interfering in your freedom of movement. So in this study, then what they did, they actually had a software that was created to analyze the sound, and the software recognized more harmonics in the sound with the feet activation. Plus, they sent this audios to musicians, orchestras, schools, and they got numbers like 99%, 98%, preferring the sound of the second recording. So this was a way that they could see the difference in terms of sound. They could prove the difference of sound when you were actually changing your body somehow, you know. But so, this is what I could say to young people. If you're not interested because of your body, you definitely should be interested because of your playing.
That's
And
like
then
one of my
we'll
favorite
all
things
be
that's ever
happy.
been said on the show. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the show. I just wanted to jump in here real quick and tell you about something that I'm really, really excited about. For a while now, I've wanted to create an even more effective resource than just the podcast that injured musicians can go to receive the support that they need. And recently I did just that. So write this down. Trust the Process Podcast Injured Musician Support Group. I know it's a long title. We're still working on that part. But this is a place where people can go now, injured musicians and even musicians who have gone through injury in the past, and people that help musicians go through injury, where they can go to receive the support that they need, whether that be ask questions, share their victories, share their frustrations, and overall just receive the community and the support that they need in a very proactive, intentional way. And so I just ask that you guys support these injured musicians by sharing this group with them, that they can receive the support that they need. Okay, enjoy the rest of the show. Because I was literally just recording an episode about this yesterday, because I do, individual, like solo episodes as well as interviews. And, people, especially musicians, we're so focused, like you said, we're focused on our product, our output, that we forget that there's a source of that output that we have to take care of. And so it's like, if you're not at the point where you're wanting to implement these things because to take care of your physical, mental, spirit, all these different types of your well-being, at least do it because these things are proven to improve your playing. Yeah. If you're so worried that like implementing these things are going to take away time from your practicing, well, the investment of them is going to help you become a better player. So you might as well try it,
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, you're going to say something. I will remember what I...
No, you go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say something because when you were talking, I was thinking also, okay, we're talking a lot about body, but I must say that our mental state directly influence how our body is. You have body language. When someone is sad, the person's going to sink down. And so that also is something to think about, that I'm talking a lot about physical, but it's all connected. I don't want people to forget that. And especially if you're having a troubled time, if you are not well emotionally, that's actually when you really have to be careful about your body and how you practice, because that's the moment when you're more in risk. When we are having a lot of tension, for example, we are more prone to get an injury. So very, very important to not forget the mental. So it's both things. And one very interesting thing is when you change your body, let's say you're super sad, you know that, but if you just try to change. I'm going to try to have a more open posture, think about the sun coming out of your chest. You actually can change your mental state. So it's very important for us to be aware of that too. Being touch is very important. Not only being fit physically, but aware of how your mental is, and try having tools to also work on the mental. So those two things work really together and very necessary.
Absolutely, they're hand in hand. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast episode we could talk about right there. I just have a couple of questions left for you, Dr. Joly. So in doing this podcast, I've become really entrenched in the research the wonderful research that you guys have been doing in is it called ISME, right? The Music Education
International Society for Music Education,
right? And other associations. And I've just been like, it sounds silly, but like, where has this been my entire life, right? And I'm curious from your perspective as a researcher. In my perspective, research is done and presented at these types of conferences, but I don't see the reach of this research getting much farther than just these conferences. I don't know if your perspective is different, especially since you do these workshops, but I just kind of feel like the momentum stops with the research once they're either presented or published or whatever, but they're not getting down to the people who need it the most, like the practitioners and the musicians and stuff like that. And so I'm wondering, like, how, as we, from your perspective as a researcher in the music education field and music world in general, how can we get better at implementing these findings that you guys are just uncovering gems, you know?
Yes, that's a very good question because, for example, if you think about a country like Switzerland or Germany, where their government understood the necessity of bringing this information to music teachers, to teachers at music education institutions, they do have that there. So while I was living in Switzerland, I lived there for 10 years, I realized that um, the teachers were going regularly on training, and also this training, like the professors of my program, were going to actually the local music schools, the local pre-college level schools, to give workshops to teachers there, to teach them some principles and all that. And this is extremely important. This is work that has to be done. And you're right that, for example, I have been the chair of the Musicians Health and Wellness Special Interest Group for 6 years.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just stopped because it has to be 6 years. That's the maximum. I now am an advisor of that group. We have Naomi Norton as the new president. Chair. I always say that wrong because the ISME has many groups, and this is one group inside of ISME. And yes, only the people who go to the conference will have access to at least the names of the people who are presenting and what they are, what research they are doing. So it would give other people a little bit of work to find out who has presented where. These conferences happen every 2 years. Next time is going to be in 2026 in Canada, in Montreal, the next conference. And there are some regional conferences from ISME, but yes, you do have to pay. They have special prices to students and local teachers. The regional conferences of ISME take place. For example, there's one North America, there's one Europe, there's one Asia, there's one South America. So it's interesting to find out where it is. But yes, it requires money because you have to pay membership, you have to go to the place, pay hotel and all that stuff. It's not cheap. So there should be programs, right? Brazilians, for example, cannot go to Montreal in 2026 to learn about those research. And a lot of the research that is presented in the conference not necessarily is going to be published at the publication of that year of the conference. So you really have to find out who presented and then go and look at what research is being done by that person. So it's a little bit of work. So, but PAMA, for example, Performing Arts Medicine Association in the United States, they do hold some webinars that are open to non-members. So people should look into the PAMA website and find out, write them and say, look, I'm interested in participating in the webinars. You can look at MTNA because there is a special section for musicians' health. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information there. And yes, MTNA, you also have to pay and to go to especially they have one whole track on musicians' health on Pedagogy Saturday when they have the annual conference, you know. So, and also all the other, which I don't know the names, but, you know, the special group for trumpet players in the National, whatever, Trumpet Players Association or the National Flutists Association, they do have some things going on, and some things are online. So people have to dig on to that. And I think that there should be a change. I know that a lot is going on in terms of um, parameters that should be established, that every music school should have instruction on that. This has been going on now. Okay, there will be next year, 2025, there will be some publications that are going to be talking about parameters. There's a group of people related to this area, musicians' health or performing arts health, that are going to come out with some publications that are important, that are going to be very relevant. And we hope that more and more, and I'm sure this is going to happen earlier in the United States, for sure, than in Brazil, for example, that there would be more this kind of regulation at the music schools, because this is extremely necessary, as, I don't know, as you discuss about principles in pedagogy. This is one of the most important principles that we should have in music teaching, in instrumental and in vocal learning, even conducting. My professor was going to teach a whole seminar to conductors because they also got injured with their arms and stuff.
Their shoulders.
So,
yeah.
I mean, this is really, this activity requires a lot physically, and we don't realize that. Even though, because we're working with smaller muscles, maybe depending on what instrument, so people don't realize this is a physical that drains a lot, physical activity that drains our body a lot. And so working on the body should be something included in every program, right? So I don't know if I responded to this, but I have to say the US is much far ahead than Brazil. I mean, I don't even know if this is a fair comparison, because Brazil is really behind in this aspect compared to what you already have. You already have programs that people can write research on that. If you look at Northern Texas, I think they did have a program there that you could do research. Peabody has some professors working on that and having a special research done together with the medical department. So it's important to look into those things and find where in your country where are those people, and if possible, going to PAMA, for example. The next one is going to be in DC in July, and you usually get access to. PAMA used to have medical doctors. Most of the people were, until some 10 years or 15 years ago, it was very much health professionals oriented. But now they have musicians also teaching about their work, and also therapists teaching about their work, giving workshops. So it's something to, if possible, and they do have special practice for students to participate. Is really life-changing. If people like this topic, it's really life-changing to go to one of those conferences. So we don't have one like that in Brazil, for example. We did have some regional happening, but it's been a while since the last one took place here. I think I actually was in São Paulo. 2017 was the last one. So you have more happening every year with PAMA. So I think that people should go and look into those things. Oh, College of Music Society, if I'm not wrong, they do have lots of videos that are accessible for free. So look into that too. Yes, and again, MTNA, and look for musicians' health, piano health, because sometimes what people are talking about piano, if they're not talking about hands, or maybe even hands sometimes will be transferable to another instrument. But if they're talking about posture sitting, it will be probably helpful to you that play another instrument, but also play at the same sitting position, So look into that. You can make the transfer.
Awesome. I think what I'm hearing is that it really does come down to the responsibility of the individual, and at the educational level, because we all owe it to ourselves to take care of ourselves, right? So, well, thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Joly. I just
You're very
enjoyed every minute
welcome.
of this, and I wish we could talk for a couple more hours, but I
It
just
had to have a certain,
one last question.
yes, a certain time or length, right? So I'm here for you.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have one.
One more question, and that is, I have a lot of people who reach out. I reached out to people because of a podcast, seeking answers for my injury. If somebody were to reach out to you today and say that they had heard your interview on this show, and they could be a trombone player or a pianist, whoever, like whatever instrument, and they just say, hey, I just need some advice. I don't know kind of what to do. I'm going through an injury myself. What one piece of advice would you give that person?
Yes. So I probably would try to find out a little bit more about this injury, because then I would be able to direct that person better to the right specialist. Because, we have focal dystonia, which is very, very specific. And you need to direct to people who really know how to work with that, which is a neurological disease that every musician should know about. So search for that. There are lots of interviews on YouTube. There are also some things that say, oh, we cured focal dystonia with 4 months. 4 weeks. That's not true, okay? It's very complex neurologically.
Yeah.
Nothing that is so complicated can be solved like this. But anyways, I'm very pragmatic about that. So I would ask about what is the problem, but I would certainly, because I know so many people, that I would probably be able to say, hey, go look into this person. Or I would be able to write someone and say, who could suggest someone. But PAMA has a list of practitioners. If you're in the United States, you can go to those listings. There are some associations that are at national level. PAMA works with America and Canada. So you can find musicians clinics, look for musicians clinics. So then you will have people with expertise to work with them. If you're in Europe, which is much easier to go to places, there are so many professionals there, especially in Germany, that could help. So look into those associations, national associations of music physiology or musicians' health. You have in Italy, you have in England, you have Germany, you have Austria, you have Switzerland. You have all the Nordic countries have, Norway, Denmark, Finland. You have people now in those more developed countries. I know this word is not right politically correct, but yes, countries with more money, they do have Japan, Australia, they do have associations. So if you if you're lucky to have this kind of association in your country, go for them. I think that you have to find a specialist that knows what you do. And if you find a specialist who is curious about what you do, who tells you, maybe bring your instrument to our consultation so I can see what you're doing. This is the ideal. You have to find a specialist that will help you, but someone who is curious about what you're doing. And you can find those people. They are around, but you need to find out. I actually suggest that every teacher should find out who is a good hand specialist, if you work with instruments that use the hand in your city. Who is a good hand specialist, or orthopedist, but who likes musicians, likes in terms of who is curious about. So those associations do have those names. But I have to say, it's quite difficult if you're in an isolated place, or a place who don't have that yet. But I would say you have to look for those people. I would be happy to try to help you somehow if I can, because I have been to those conferences and I know where are the people. Maybe I can help you to find someone, But of course I cannot say, oh, I will help you. I don't know, But I think that you have to find out who are those people and be friends with them, or make friends with them, or bring them to teach in your something in your institution. This would be so good. I'm sure they're going to be happy to do that. And so that knowledge is going to be shared with other people. But anyways, don't despair if you're having a problem. You might be able to work and solve it if you find out the reason. And especially if it is something that has grown to a level which didn't happen and now it's happening, you might be able to find a solution with the right direction. You need to find the right direction. It's complicated. It's complicated, but don't give up looking for. I talked to a girl from Basel, which is very in the center, and she took maybe 2 years to find out that she was suffering from focal dystonia.
Wow.
So being informed about what are the symptoms, try to find out what you're having and what is causing that. I think that would be the start. And don't give up, and don't try to play with pain, because that could aggravate the problem. So be aware of the fact that something's going on that is not right, and you shouldn't replicate that. You should actually find a solution to change that. Try to see what is going on, but it's very difficult when you are in the middle of it. So get friends with the people who know. Look into those places. You might see someone who's talking about your problem towards your instrument. Look for that, your instrument and your problem on Google. You might find someone, that could be something that could help you, but it's quite a difficulty. I think that those associations might be the best way to go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
You're
this is
very
going to help a lot
welcome.
of people. We've gotten into a lot of things I wasn't expecting to, and I'm so thrilled that we did.
Thank you so much, Clark, for your invitation. And I'm here whenever you need again. I'll be happy to participate. I'm glad we could make it. And I'm sorry for my scheduling issues, but I'm very happy.
Fine,
and
yeah.
I am here. If people want to ask me anything, feel free to get in touch. I'm going to give you the information later on.
Perfect. To all of you out there in podcast land, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Trust the Process. If you want to learn more about the show, keep up to date with all the happenings, make sure you join our newsletter in the show notes. And if you feel so inclined to support the mission that we have here, there's also an opportunity to do that in the show notes as well. And if you want to explore working with me on a coaching relationship through your injury, that is also available to you. Just everything's in the show notes today. So until next time, keep on keeping on and keep trusting the process. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of Trust the Process, the official podcast of Musician Unchained, the newest coaching program dedicated to helping musicians navigate and overcome injury. But before you go, I have a few quick ways you can stay connected and support our growing community. First of all, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a text with the link below and share your thoughts, questions, or just say hi. You can also check the show out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We also would love to see you in our Facebook support group, Trust the Process Podcast Injured Musician Support Group. If you found value in today's episode, consider making a donation to support our mission of empowering musicians worldwide. Every contribution helps us create more content and resources for you. So visit link number 2 below to support the mission. If you decide to donate, I'll send you my newest resource, the Injured Musician Toolkit, which is an ebook designed to give you tools to help you get through your injury. Subscribe to our newsletter to get exclusive insights, tips, sneak previews of episodes, and announcements straight to your inbox. Act now and I will send you a free gift. So sign up at www.musicianunchained.com/newsletter. And if you or someone you know would like to go deeper with me in the topics of injury and mindset, head over back to musicianunchained.com and check out the Let's Hang tab. As always, I want to thank Daniel Baldwin, my audio engineer, and my sister Dana Lovell for her help with the promotional materials. There is no podcast without them. Before I go, I want to tell you how much I deeply appreciate your time and support. You are not alone on this journey. There are musicians and educators out there who need this resource, and we need to get it to them. Together, we are breaking the chain of old habits and thought patterns that don't serve us anymore, and unchaining the potential within ourselves to face each challenge with strength and resilience. So, as I always say, keep on keeping on and keep trusting the process. Until next time.